I can't stress enough how important it is to have a great realtor and somebody who can let you know if
Hmm.
what you're planning, if you're buying this piece of property with the idea of putting more units on it or building a pool
Hmm.
or something like that, you need to have somebody who can guide you.
Key West Porch Talk, your home navigator. From the keys to the seas, it's all a thrill. With E.R. Ruth, your trusted realtor.
I'm Ia, your Keys to the Seas realtor with Lefreno Real Estate at 1120 Duval Street. And this is Key West Porch Talk. Today we have Sarah Compton with us. She is on the City of Key West Planning Board, and we're going to ask some questions about that role and see if we can't get some insights. But before that, I'd love you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
All right. I am Sarah Compton. I was put on the planning board last fall. I'm a business owner, and I'm also running for District 4 Commissioner here in Key West.
Yeah, I got to get a plug in for
Gotta
that.
get a plug in for that every chance I
I
get.
know, right? Exactly. So you were appointed when you said you got put on the
Yes,
board. So
yes.
you were appointed.
Yep, by Commissioner Kaufman.
And that's a 3-year term?
It is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Excellent. Great. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the questions.
All
and
right.
So for our listeners who may not know, what exactly does the planning board do in Key West?
So the planning board makes decisions on land use. We have our LDRs that are created by the city. And anytime there is a new development plan, redevelopment, if people need variances or conditional uses for their properties, all of that goes to the planning board, and the planning board makes those decisions.
Would you tell me what the LDR is
Oh,
for
yes.
our listeners?
Yes. That is land development regulations.
Great. They'll want to know that.
Yes.
Because
Very
everything
important.
has an acronym these days.
And that's right. That's right.
So with the all of the development, redevelopment, all the land use projects that come up, what surprises you most about the scope of your role?
I think that the thing that surprised me the most was the amount of things that were approved, kind of whether or not they were going along with the LDRs. So, and which I think is kind of starting to change. I do understand, and that's not anything against my fellow board members. Some of our rules were set forth very, very strictly by our planning department. So everything that came through, it was like, this should be denied, this should be denied, this should be denied.
There was no gray area.
There was no gray area. They have since kind of changed that up a little bit to use more common sense planning.
Oh, I like that.
I do too. I really like it a lot because it's important to take into consideration how a property is going to affect the neighborhood.
Yep.
It's not, just these criteria and how tightly we bind to them. And some of them are pretty relative.
Yes.
Like, how do you define a hardship?
Yes,
because
exactly.
we don't really have a set definition for what a hardship is.
Right.
And I am of the belief that if someone has a lot, say that is a quarter of the size or less than the rest of them that are in that area, that's a hardship.
Yes.
So
it limits their ability to utilize their property to the best of its purpose.
Right.
Yeah. And that leads me to, when someone buys in Key West, how does the planning and zoning quietly affect what they can and cannot do? Like you said, a smaller lot in a neighborhood of larger lots, they may have the hardship, but what about somebody who comes in to our area and wants to put a pool in? They see that their neighbor has one.
So the neighbor having one does not mean an approval. It just doesn't. And we have to look at each property on its own. It is very important, I think, when buying in Key West to have a knowledgeable realtor that can help guide you with
Right.
what these LDRs are for this property, because the zoning, that all travels with the property, not with the dream.
That's
You
right.
know?
It's so true. Exactly.
That is, it's really, really important that you understand your limitations
Yep.
on that property whenever you buy it, because chances are, for something like a swimming pool, that is not only going to affect your property. That's impervious land. That's going to affect everything around you, because we can only pave so much of paradise that causes, and it's not, an ideological type thing. That is flooding.
Yes.
We can't build as if we're building on top of a mountain when we're building in a basin.
That's right. Exactly.
So
yep, the water's got to go somewhere.
Right. And it will go into your neighbor's yard. And that's another thing that I think surprises a lot of people, is how technical everything that we are looking at is. We have to take stormwater into consideration, and how they're planning on keeping it on the property, and whether they have swales and how those swales are built. And it's a lot of information, but it is very, I think, vitally important. The planning board, to me, is an extremely important board in our city, and it affects everything from neighborhood character to flooding, to fire safety, everything.
Yeah. So people tend to think the planning board is a controlling board, but actually it's really just trying to balance all of that, the neighbors, the flooding, the ecological effects, all of that.
Right. And I do feel very lucky that I am on the planning board and not the HARC board.
A little more strict, huh?
Yeah, I like having numbers to work with, and real information. And with HARC, they have to be the style police.
That's right. And for our listeners, HARC is the Historical Architectural Review Committee.
Right. And they are so important. They are so important for keeping our historic neighborhoods historic, and looking historic, and being, part of this destination that people come and visit to see. So their job is very difficult. My job has a lot of technical things in it, but I enjoy.
Yes.
And to me, that is a lot easier to apply than especially some of the things that have come up recently.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So with that being said, what trends are you seeing in development or redevelopment in the city?
This past month, I think nearly everything on our agenda was either major or minor developments, two of which are affordable housing projects, which is very exciting.
Yes.
For instance, just down the street here, they're going from an 1960s obsolete quadplex to a 40-unit, 3-story affordable housing project. So
that's excellent.
Very excited about that. There's also an amazing project that is coming in on Trumbo Road, over near the ferry and all of that. So very excited about those, and I love seeing the affordable housing projects coming through.
The one just down the road, that's a redevelopment.
Yes.
So they're taking something that was existing and turning it into something new, but it's going to benefit the affordability issue that we have in town.
Absolutely, and it's a better use of the land.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's the nice thing about the planning board, is that if they keep their eyes on the highest and best use for the land, it tends to go in a good direction.
Right. I think so too.
Great. So does the city have tools that rely on addressing housing affordability now that we've, opened up that door?
Well, as far as the planning board goes, we are just implementing the policy that the city gives us.
Okay.
So we aren't creating any of those policies, but we are making sure that they are implemented.
Great.
So whenever, and you will see on the planning board also, whenever the issue of affordable housing comes up, sometimes we're a little more lenient on whenever they need variances or things like
Gotcha.
that. We're like the one down the street. That one, they needed a height variance for the air conditioners and things like that will be on the top of the building. It brought them over their height allowance.
So that was granted.
That's easy,
Yeah. And it doesn't affect really, it's not such a big height variance that it's really going to change the look and feel of the area.
Right. And the benefit to the community is, it's exponential compared to what's there now.
It outweighs that little bit of variance. Absolutely. That's great. Are you seeing any issues with climate resilience affecting any of the decision making at the planning board?
We do have a lot of issues with flooding, and I do think that is being considered more with the planning board than it has been in the past, because we can really see what happens when areas are overdeveloped and it increases the flooding.
So potentially, I guess, as you're being presented with projects, a project could potentially be turned down because maybe there's too much density in a certain neighborhood and it's going to just increase the flooding.
Right, certainly. And we get that a lot, because we have so many variances that come before us, and a lot of them are for lot coverage or impervious land percentages, and you're seeing those denied more and more, I think, in the planning board, because it is important, and we can't flood the island. And it's also one of the least expensive flood mitigation tools that we have as a city.
Absolutely.
Is our LDRs.
Yep.
There's always big projects going on in pump stations and things like that, but adhering to our LDRs and our lot coverage and impervious land, that would make an immeasurable difference.
Excellent. Great. And with the LDRs, most cities have like planning years, like 3 to 5 year plans or 10-year plans. The city of Key West, what is their plan that's in place now? Is that a 10-year, 20-year?
Our comprehensive plan, I don't remember exactly how far out our comprehensive plan goes. But, we do have to refer back to it often. And it is an evolving piece of literature.
Yes.
It is, it's not something that is stagnant, because our needs change.
Yes, exactly.
So, and that is actually something that I would like to see change as part of how the planning board operates, is that there be more education for planning board members on what our comprehensive plan is and our strategic plan and what our major goals are as a city. Because the city, we create these goals and these strategic plans and have these workshops, but if you're not inviting these discretionary boards to the table and proactively educating them on what the goals are, how can they make a really informed decision?
That's so true. Absolutely. When you have plans in place and you're asking people to make decisions to complement those plans, but they don't know what the plans are, it makes it a little difficult.
It does.
I like that idea. Yeah. Well, maybe you can bring that up to the city.
Yeah. They've heard it.
Very good. Excellent. So I think we touched a little bit on this. I was going to say, people are like, well, why can't we just build what we want to build? It's my land, because we have ROGOs. Let's talk a little bit about that, the buildable and non-buildable lots.
So, whenever you buy a piece of property, you do have certain property rights. Those property rights are within the scope of the LDRs that affect that piece of property, which again, I can't stress enough how important it is to have a great realtor and somebody who can let you know if what you're planning, if you're buying this piece of property with the idea of putting more units on it or building a pool or something like that, you need to have somebody who can guide you and let you know, yes, this is the right property, or no, that is never going to happen here. That will not get approved.
Right. No matter how much you like the property,
right.
no matter, it's just not going to happen because that lot or that property doesn't have the space or ability or what have you to meet the land use plan.
And with us having such a large historic district in particular, that area has very strict regulations. And, doing a renovation in that area, you're not just coming to the planning board for variances. You are also going to the HARC board. Your plans are going to be looked at by utility. Your plans are going to be looked at by Keys Electric. Your plans are going to be looked at by fire safety. It is, there are a lot of obstacles that you have to clear before you can change anything in the historic district. And I think that's important.
Yep. Well, I mean, that's what Key West is. It has so much to offer in that way for people to come visit and for us to enjoy it for, living here too.
Right. And we just can't have a Jetsons house on Elizabeth Street. It won't work.
No, it absolutely won't. And the lots don't work for it either.
Right. Yeah.
So how can residents constructively participate in the process?
So sending emails to your planning board members is a great thing to do. I always, whenever I write emails to any board members of any board or the commission, I always make sure I copy our clerk, Carrie, and she will make sure that those get distributed and they get included in the information packet. So that's a great way to have your words on the record in black and white, which I think is very important. I always try to do both. I try to come before the board and speak at the meetings, and get it in writing to the board members. And if you can do that ahead of time, that gives the board members time to really consider what you're saying and to be able to look at what you're saying and talk to the planning department. And sometimes, it is often that a neighbor's email will have something postponed so that they can, instead of trying to overcome that hurdle in front of the board, where they can actually go to the neighbor and work out an agreement there. And a lot of times they bring it into compliance and then they don't even have to come back.
Oh, that's
to
great.
The planning board.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
That happens often.
Yep. Very good.
It doesn't happen as often whenever somebody just comes and speaks at the meeting, because there isn't time for the experts to
review it and look at it and see what other options there might be for those people that are trying to get the change that they want.
Right, yeah.
And then you mentioned speaking. So when somebody does come up and speak in front of the board, what advice would you give them when they come to speak at a meeting? I know it's limited in time.
It is limited in time. So I always think it's a good idea. I mean, depending on what it is that you're coming to talk about, but have kind of your main points prepared. Because I have seen people who get back to their seat and they're like, oh, you can tell that it's like, oh, I forgot that whole part that I wanted to say. So have something prepared so that you don't forget your important points, and just try to bring it from the point of view of a good neighbor.
Yeah,
because that's always what we are striving for, is for the developers or the homeowner, whoever we're talking to, the applicant is, we are striving for them to be good neighbors.
Yep.
And seeing that they have, actively gone to the neighbors and talked to the neighbors, that a lot of times affects whether or not their variance gets passed,
Oh, that's great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good advice. And then with the time limit, do you think it's wise for somebody that's coming to get in front of the board, speak in front of the board, to practice a little bit so that they're staying within their time limit so they can actually get those key points across?
Absolutely. I mean, at least run through it once, just run through it once, and make sure you're under that 3-minute mark. If you've got a sentence or two, typically our chairman will go ahead and finish up.
Wrap up your
yeah.
concept, your thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's very reasonable.
That's great.
So, but running through it once is always a great idea.
So if you're looking ahead 3 to 5 years, what trends do you believe will be coming down in this realm of the planning and development aspect from working on the board this past year?
I believe in the next 3 to 5 years that there will be a focus on educating the board members and the public, which I'm pretty passionate about.
Yes, very good.
So I expect to see that. I also expect to see more of these affordable housing projects, which is
fabulous news.
just wonderful to see. And I think we will continue to see a lot of redevelopment because the island's built out. There's not a lot of vacant land to
just start fresh.
Right,
yeah, but
right.
we do have some empty buildings, so it'd be great to see those utilized.
I agree. Actually, we just had at the board last month a vacant lot on Flagler that has been vacant as long as I can, at least 30 years. And they're going to put a nursery there.
Oh, wow.
Which I think is fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Like a kid's nursery.
No.
Oh,
like
a garden nursery.
Yeah, a garden nursery.
That's even better.
Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect.
So I think that that's really exciting. And I think that I think that the highest and best use and also that common sense planning from our planning department where they are not just looking at the criteria as kind of an immovable thing.
Right.
They're looking at it as something that has a lot of variables.
Yeah, and it lives and breathes.
Exactly.
It can't be stagnant when it comes to that kind of development. Well, I appreciate your time. I'm going to put us into the truth or tale segment, unless you have anything further you want to that you're dying to share with everybody.
I think we covered it.
We did a good job. Absolutely. And I'm hoping that our listeners are finding some good information that'll make them more prepared when they get in front of the planning board.
Absolutely.
So here we go. These will be kind of a quick round. I'll ask it and you'll just, tell me if it's true or if it's a tale.
Okay.
If I own a property, I can do whatever I want with it.
That is a tale.
We did discuss that.
Yes, that is a tale. You will have to work within the land
the constraints of that. Yeah,
yeah.
Exactly. Building up is always easier than building out in Key West.
That is also a tale. We actually have a lot of height restrictions, and there are and that in different areas it's for different reasons, but sometimes it's not allowed at all. You have to stay with the historic height of a structure.
Yep.
So you definitely can't always build up.
And historic designation makes renovations nearly impossible.
I wouldn't say it makes renovations nearly impossible. I would say that is also a tale. They just have to be done responsibly and within the constraints of our HARC board and our planning department. Yep. And if you have a developer who knows our LDRs, which we have a lot of really great developers in this town, who are very knowledgeable, that is extremely important.
Yep.
They can come in and say, well, this can be done here, and they will create plans. And what I see is a lot of our developers working very, very hard to stay in compliance because
Yes.
they don't want to come and ask for a variance and have their project held
No,
up. And
right.
that's not fun for anybody. I think most of them, the only time they do it is when
there's nothing else around that they can't make work.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. More development automatically lowers housing prices.
That is tail.
I'm hitting a lot of tails today.
Yeah, that is a tail. We have a lot of variables that affect our property prices here in Key West. And I in a past life back in Missouri, I used to be a realtor, and the difference between an area that is surrounded by land and an area that is completely built up and surrounded by water, very different. So yeah, development does not always mean lower housing costs.
One would wish.
Yeah, it would be nice. Yeah.
So the planning board can ignore public input.
That is also a tale. We have to take that into consideration. It is very, very important to have the public voice heard, to have that public participation, and having the public participation also holds us accountable.
Right, sure.
So whenever, there's backroom deals and things like that, they can't happen if there's eyes on them.
Right.
So I always want to invite as much public participation. And if there is a development in your neighborhood, look at the plans. They're all available in the agenda whenever it comes onto the city's website. And get a good look at it and understand what's happening, and come and participate in the meeting.
That's where transparency comes in on both sides. That makes the working relationship so much better.
Absolutely.
And then, so if a neighbor gets, we've mentioned this earlier, if a neighbor gets approved for something, I automatically can too. Let's see if our listeners remember.
Yes. No, that is a tale. That is a tale. Recently, we had two properties on the same agenda. It wasn't neighbors, but two properties on the same agenda. One wanted to go over their coverage by 7%, and another wanted to go over their coverage by 7%. One of them wanted to put in a pool, and the other was a Habitat for Humanity home that was trying to put in one more bedroom because 3 bedrooms are more needed by the families in our community that are utilizing that service. So the Habitat for Humanity home, they were approved, and the pool wasn't. And I believe that property was eventually brought into compliance. And
then were they able to put a small pool in?
I think they did.
Yeah,
put a
very
small
good.
pool in. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, nice. Very good. Well, that's all I have on the truth or tale round. Is there anything else? Any burning message you would like to share?
Try to stay in compliance. It will make your life much easier.
There you go. Yeah.
And also, and understand what you're buying.
Yep.
Whenever you are buying a piece of property, understand have a clear picture of what your goals are, and make sure that your realtor has a very clear picture of what your goals are, and that they have the knowledge that they need, or know where to
at least where to find it, to do the research, to point their client in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Yep. Well, I appreciate all your time today. I'm hoping that this has been helpful to our listeners and our viewers. And if they have any local questions, I'm sure that they could reach out to the planning board.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. And this is Key West Porch Talk. Please listen on the 1st and 15th of every month. That's when we drop the new podcast. And if you want to catch up on some previous ones, you can go to my YouTube channel at Ia Ruth Realtor. Thank you very much. See you next time.